Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the 5K GeoGuessr podcast. I'm your host, Mark Wetzler. In today's episode, I have the pleasure of talking to Toro, a well-known member of the GeoGuessr community. He was part of a team that got second place in the 2022 Paris World Cup. Two other members of that team were Radu and May Potato. And in today's conversation, we talk about things like cheating, map distribution, things that haven't been discussed on this podcast yet. He is a very insightful, thoughtful, and articulate guy, and it was a pleasure talking to him. And I hope you enjoyed the episode. Without further ado, here is Toro. Welcome to the 5K GeoGuessr podcast. Toro, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Honored to be on, and been a big fan of the series before. I love the podcast format, and I can't wait for more.
Awesome. Thank you. We were talking the other day off camera a bit. I was fascinated by pretty much everything you were saying. But first, I kind of want to start with, I don't know, just a little info about you. What is a day in the life of Toro like? It could be a GeoGuessr day. It could be a non-GeoGuessr day.
Pretty much every day is a GeoGuessr day. I like to play pretty consistently. Wake up in the morning, play the Rainbolt Daily Challenge recently, then hop onto some Chatguessr, and then play that for a little while, then maybe stream myself, and then maybe hop on to some late night Chatguessr streams. Yeah. After I quit my job recently, I've had a lot of time to play GeoGuessr, so it's been a lot of GeoGuessr recently.
Nice. What kind of work were you doing, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, so I was in finance. I went to business school, have worked here in New York City off and on for 10 years. And now I'm just decided to move back to Denver, Colorado, where I grew up.
Awesome. So you grew up in Denver. You've
Yep.
lived in New York for the last 10 years. And as far as GeoGuessr goes, you were telling me that you got into it basically when it started, but were quite casual for a long time.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I saw the hype announcement in 2013 where we have this game, and I thought, perfect. I love maps. I love geography. I love uh, doing this kind of guessing and figuring out where we are in the world. And so I signed up and started playing very casually. And then I had an account since 2015. I think the last digits of your username or the first digits of your username show your account
Yeah.
creation dates. And mine is one of the earliest out there. And we would play very casually. My family would gather around in Christmas, and we would use the pass and play mode on the iPad where you all get the same location. You click where you think it is, you pass it to the next person, and then you go and you play 5 rounds and see who wins.
Does that
So
still exist?
no, it doesn't exist anymore, which is too bad. It is kind of a fun way to play the game and gets the whole family involved.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really cool. So you say you've always kind of been into maps and always kind of been into geography. So then along comes this game. It's kind of a perfect way to channel those interests. When did it kind of become a little more serious, if that's even a way to describe it?
A few months into the pandemic, I started watching Twitch, and one of the first games that I searched up was GeoGuessr, and I saw that people played it interactively on Twitch, and I was hooked. Started in AG Blatt's stream and jumped over to a few others and have been hooked ever since. So that's where I discovered it. That's where I got more serious. That's where I got more integrated into the GeoGuessr community.
Okay, AG Blatt, is that a person or is that
Yeah, he's one of the original Twitch GeoGuessr streamers, along
okay?
with Call Me the Ocean Man, Sunken City 64, Geo Guy,
Ah,
Lefty Raffle. Too many to name, but
yeah,
a lot of them are still doing it, and a lot of them are good friends.
yeah, that's awesome. Um, then fast forward to 2022. You're competing in what was the first ever World Cup for GeoGuessr, correct?
Yeah, it was the first ever LAN tournament that was really organized and had, monitors for cheating, and um, was a really big deal. The French community put it on, La Ligue, and
Mm.
they invited players from all over the world. And, I was one of the few Americans who decided to make the trip over to Paris, France, connected with RC and Mate Potato, and saw that they were looking for teams, and we were a team of three, and it was great opportunity to meet, play GeoGuessr, and connect with these people who I'd interacted with online for so long.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things I wanted to ask. How well did you know those guys before that tournament?
I knew them a little bit. We would jump in each other's Twitch streams. RC doesn't stream much, but he has a YouTube channel, and I would see him playing in other streams. Yeah, so a little bit, but it was a lot of French players, and then there was kind of the foreign teams, and we were one of the foreign teams, and so
Okay.
we're looking for English speaking that we could all communicate and interact together. And in the days leading up to the tournament, they had little trial practices. So got to know the game modes, know the maps and the other teams that we were competing against, but also just to get to know RC and Mate Potato, their play styles, and them as people a little bit.
Yeah. Well, that makes me think of something interesting. I mean, in team sports, you always think of like chemistry. Sometimes that can be more important than how good the actual players are. Do you think that matters much in Team GeoGuessr? Like how comfortable you are with each other, how well you kind of feed off each other?
It can, for sure, it can. For us, it was kind of, there was a pecking order, and I was at the bottom of the pecking order, and I kind of knew where I was, and so I
Okay.
didn't, I didn't question RC when he had a certain intuition and told me where to go. But
Hmm.
yeah, it was great, and I feel like I played well enough to add some value. And the team could have four people, so we could have had somebody sit out some games, but our team only had three, so played every match, and it was a great opportunity.
Hmm. And who did you play in the finals?
We played a Blinky, Macam, and Kodiak in the
Okay.
finals. Yeah.
Yeah, I was watching that interview that you sent me the other day. That some pretty stacked teams. Was the competition, I mean, you said like a lot of the teams were just French players, but do you feel like it was a good representation of the talent of GeoGuessr at that time?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. The French league they've got a lot of really good players, and, people I know and respect. And they're particularly inclined toward moving games, which
Hmm.
is a little bit less of what I did on Twitch and Chatguessr. So it was a new skill set, and it was fun to learn.
So it's Paris, it's 2022. You guys fly in from your respective locations and you got an Airbnb together, you said, or you got an Airbnb?
Yeah, I got an Airbnb for the team, and stay together, train together, and Mate Potato already had housing arrangements, so we got Jake Lyons in on another room. So it was a good way to just hang out with RC and Jake. And um, yeah, yeah,
Jake was on a different team.
he was on a different team. Yeah, we played him in the semifinals, and uh, yep, beat them.
It's always cool to think about like the behind the scenes stuff. Like,
Yeah, it was great. It was well organized. It was very interesting to see these people. There were a lot of face reveals, a lot of people who had, just been news usernames before, were actually there in person, and so you could talk to them and
hmm
get to know them a little bit, and go have beers with them after the games.
hmm Yeah, speaking of beers, you were also talking off camera about a kind of now in retrospect, a very important conversation with WolfTrekker. Was that at the same time?
Yeah, yeah. WolfTrekker was there. He had his own team. I think they finished fourth or fifth in the tournament. and yeah, had beers with WolfTrekker, which was kind of surreal. He's, as a celebrity, made an improved world, an
Yeah.
awesome map, and uploaded YouTube videos, and was just a great, charming guy who also is into travel in real life. And we talked about map distributions because I made a
Hmm.
map, he made a map, and so we were having a good old chat, a spirited discussion.
Yeah. So you're sitting there like in a cafe or a bar
Yep.
in WolfTrekker drinking his beer, and is he basically saying like, you know what, I can't deal with world map anymore, or how did that go?
Well, it's interesting. The user created maps were kind of a response to the failings of the world map. Too much Vienna, too much Midway Island, and not a great distribution. Compass was always pointed north, so location wasn't panned down the road.
Hmm.
And so, really, the original, you have to give credit to Mapper, who created a diverse world,
Hmm.
and that was designed to be pinpointable, playable, and MPZ, and had a different distribution. One could argue whether it was better or worse, but it was definitely different.
Hmm.
And um, and WolfTrekker kind of saw that and made his version of that map. Not as heavy on the pinpoint ability, but good, interesting locations from all around the world. And so, um, that became one of the two or three default maps with AI generated world.
Well, you were t telling me a bit about map distribution. I think one of your quotes, because I wrote it down, was you show me a map distribution, I'll show you your values. Could you explain that a little more?
Yeah, absolutely. So the spirit of the game at GeoGuessr is you get dropped randomly somewhere in the world. And I like that. You don't know where you're going, could be anywhere.
Yeah.
Um, but some people say, I want to see variety. And they define variety as new countries. And so I came up with the term countryness to um, describe what they want to see. They want to see, not always the biggest countries, United States, Brazil,
Hmm.
Russia, Nigeria, again and again and again, Brazil. And so they want to see a variety of countries. And so they upweight small countries that, get ahead of their skis in terms of the coverage available, the size, the variety, the different landscapes. So countryness became kind of a focus of the maps. And the original A Diverse World map was, I think it was 25 or 50 locations in every country.
Yeah.
So you had an equal weight to that. And now there's a map called AI Degenerated World, which is pretty much that. And it's banned on my stream. I won't let people play it. I think it's terrible. So the spirit is I want to see the whole world. I don't want to just guess the country based on political boundaries, and treating a North Macedonia with spotty coverage, old coverage, not a very big country, the same as the United States or India or Japan, doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So, um, the country distribution, I think, is an important and underappreciated aspect of the game. But also, there's the urban rural split. A lot of
Hmm.
GeoGuessr players prefer rural rounds. They don't want to be into memorizing street signs. They'd prefer landscapes. They don't care what the differences between Cincinnati, Columbus, and Cleveland are. They want to
Hmm.
see vistas and mountains and stuff, and that's certainly a way to play the game as well. But I do like urban locations. I mean, I don't mind rural locations either, and ideally see a pretty good mix of them.
Yeah. Well, speaking of distribution, speaking of small countries specifically, how should a player be motivated to learn how to region guess a country like Belgium? Is there a place for that, or what do you think about
So
that?
some would say yes. Some would say, hey, it's a country, it's a people, it's a culture, it's confined, and thus, let's learn about it. Let's learn about its regional variations. And if we play a Belgium only map, the scoring is going to be reduced to the fact of where, it actually matters where you go in Belgium. If you mix up the region, then, you're going to lose
Mm-hmm.
to another player. And so, country specific maps, I don't have a problem with. I place country specific maps on my Twitch stream. Some Twitch streamers won't. They'll only play world maps to get everybody involved, to keep it interesting so that nobody has, some big home field advantage. But
Yeah.
I don't mind learning about countries, but if I'm playing a world map, I don't want to see a bunch of locations in small countries, whereas big countries go relatively ignored with all their variety and expansive coverage.
That's a good point. Another thing you said was repeats shouldn't be a thing. And one of the questions I had is, and maybe this is a stupid question, but is that possible? If you have people playing maps enough, aren't there always going to be repeats, or is there a way to make that viable?
So when A Diverse World came out, there were, I don't know, 10, 15,000 locations maybe when it was really popular. And people would remember repeats and say,
Hmm.
okay, this is this intersection in South Africa. I remember it. It was panned toward the street sign and then it had town names and, you know, they would come up. You would see the same location if you played a lot, 4 or 5 different times. And, you know, I would hate it whenever I saw a repeat. I'm like, I know this is a repeat. Either I would be mad at myself for forgetting where it was, or I would be kind of cringing inside and
Yeah.
saying, this doesn't seem fair that I get the 5K immediately because it is a repeat. I mean, the world is a big place, so I don't think we actually need repeats. I think it's possible to play the game of GeoGuessr and never get a repeat. And
Hmm.
I heard Slash Peak and his maps is now starting to regenerate them every week.
Wow.
So there won't be any repeats, or there be very rare to get a repeat in some of his maps, like an arbitrary world, an arbitrary rural world, and
Hmm.
yeah. So that's an exciting new development, and all the tools that the community has come together to build. All the developers, Anna and Emily and Slash P and Roland Hill and Mr. American Mike. They created mapmaking.app and Emily's amazing resource site
Yeah.
and Chatguessr and all these tools that people are not charging for. They're doing
Hmm.
it for love of the game and to contribute to the community. And I think that's an amazing and underappreciated part of GeoGuessr and
Yeah.
the
Yeah, no, that
little
is really cool. Um,
weird group of online map nerds that we are.
yeah. Yeah. I don't know what your relationship is with competitive GeoGuessr. Have you played many duels with Improved World now that it's there for No Move and NMPZ?
Yeah, so I didn't play competitive since the beta season, really. I played the beta season,
Hmm.
decided, you know what, I can't be certain that the person on the other side isn't cheating. So
Hmm.
for me, that's kind of a deal breaker. But then I saw some changes, and I really like an improved world, and then specifically the tweaks that WolfTrekker has made to the map in the last few months here. And I have been playing a little bit of competitive GeoGuessr ahead of the big switch to the rating bands. Tried to rank up as much as I could. My
Hmm.
rating was like gold, and tried to get up toward champion, where I think I might belong, the lower end of champion, maybe. And have been playing a little bit recently. So I'm I like the map choice, and I think they've done actually a pretty good job of weeding out the most obvious cheaters. So I
Hmm.
got to give some credit to GeoGuessr for starting to get it right.
Hmm. Yeah, well, I guess now might be a good time to go into the whole cheating field, because I am super interested in that. And
Yep.
well, let's just start with what you just mentioned. You said GeoGuessr has done a good job of weeding out obvious cheaters. What are some what are some obvious ways that people cheat?
Yeah. So cheating basically can be put into four buckets.
Okay.
Scripting, you
Okay.
have control of the browser. You right click view source. You can look at the exact latitude and longitude of the location. You write a little script around the browser. It can put the pin on the map automatically for you. So scripting is a big problem, and it's a really hard problem to catch.
Hmm.
Um, there are actually, more sophisticated programs that plonk strategically away from the known location so as not to look suspicious. But, sometimes you can deduce whether they're using a script or not based on whether they plonk in East Timor, which has no coverage,
Hmm.
versus Timor, part of Indonesia. So scripting. The
Scripting.
second is Googling. Googling is and has always been a problem in this game, and it's really hard to catch because the best players might have a pretty good recall of place names,
Hmm.
but um, you can anybody can Google and look something up on a search engine. You don't even need your mouse. You don't even need to do anything suspicious with your movements. You can just ask Siri, ask
Yep.
somebody, where is this location, and do it on your phone as you're playing. So Googling is a big problem. The replay function kind of helps weed out the most obvious Googlers, but
Hmm.
it's
How,
still and always going to
how
be a
does that
problem
work? How?
in GeoGuessr. Yeah, so when you're playing a duel, you can rerun the round
Hmm.
of the other person. You can see where they panned, what they opened, when they opened their map, what did they scroll to, and that's been used as evidence to catch some Googlers,
Hmm.
which
Just
is
because there's a delay where they're kind of just chilling for a sec, where it's probable that they're Googling, or
yeah, they hold their mouse still. They zoom into the exact location, or they
yeah.
start zooming into some area, see a sign, and then go way over to another area.
Yeah.
You know, none of this is definitive, but it's
Yeah.
all pretty suggestive of Googling.
Yeah.
So Googling will always be a problem. The third category is triangulation. This
Okay.
is kind of a nothing category anymore, but basically you get three friends in a Discord call. You guess certain coordinates, the distance away based on what the Chatguessr
Oh,
screen has, and you can, get the exact location for the fourth person who guesses. But
okay.
you know that's that's a really minor thing, and it's only happened a few times, and most streamers who do Chatguessr now hide the distance, so it becomes a lot harder, and they
Okay.
hide the score too,
Okay.
until the round is over. And finally, the fourth category, which is the scariest one, which I think is going to really take over, is image recognition.
Oh
So you
no.
can have a set number of locations and just take a screenshot or something, and if you have the JSON, if you have the file of the map, then you don't need any fancy AI. You can just say, hey, find this image in this set of 50,000 pictures,
Oh
and
God.
it'll find it and you can get the 5K. um, but the scary one is AI. It's going to be something where it's going to use clues in order to guess locations. And we've already seen some AI engines are pretty good and can
Hmm.
beat some of the best GeoGuessr players out there. And
Yeah.
so, whether somebody's using a cheap AI program, you don't really know.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I hadn't even heard or thought about. Well, I guess yeah, the AI thing hadn't even occurred to me, but yeah, that's a scary prospect, mostly because, it begs the question, could this ruin the game? Like, could this make playing competitively, you know, not even worth it unless there are, like people actively monitoring it?
Yeah, it's a challenge. It's always been a challenge unique to GeoGuessr because there is an answer and it's so easily accessible because it's a browser-based game. So it's going to be really hard. And I think that really puts more emphasis on the in-person LAN tournaments. I
Hmm.
mean, they're not actual LAN tournaments, they're playing on the internet, but with in-person monitors, new computers that you've never seen before, and you're sitting and you're just, all you have is your brain.
Yeah.
And so that is exciting. And I've been glad to participate in one and watch others, and look forward to seeing more of those pop up in the future.
You've caught some cheaters. You have a lot of insight into the subject. I'm still just trying to wrap my head around why people do this. I think it might just be like, why does anyone cheat on anything? Why does anyone cheat on a test for school? But I don't know, having some more insight certainly than I do in this subject, like why? Why are people doing this?
Yeah, it's a problem. It's a in People do it for clout. People do it for money. If there are cash prizes in
Yeah.
tournaments, people, if you're a 15-year-old kid and you're in high school, and a couple $100, that's meaningful. That's something that you might be willing to cheat for, unfortunately.
Hmm.
And so yeah, I mean, it's pretty easy to catch the most obvious players, the newer players. When they cheat, they just get a good score, but if a round with no information, they they fumble. So in Chatguessr, Googlers win rounds, they rarely win games, is kind of the maxim there.
Mm,
But um, you know, when you have good competitors, people who are actually good at the game, who just need that little edge, who just need to go a little bit further in order to get some more clout, get some more money from prize winnings, they think it might be worth it to them to throw it all away, throw their reputation away.
hmm.
And that's why I think reputation is such a huge and important check on that private impulse that people might have to use some unauthorized means in order to win a GeoGuessr game, which,
Yeah. Yeah.
seems pretty trivial, seems pretty silly, but people do it. And, for me, who's, cares about justice and fairness, it's deeply upsetting, and it's kind of motivated me to produce some of these documents where it's not some closed group of people deciding whether they cheated or not. It's a public presentation of all the evidence available.
Hmm.
People say it's not proof. There can be no absolute proof. I don't know. I'm not
Yeah.
sitting behind them. I'm not in the room. But if you present evidence and it starts to stack up and it starts to gain credibility and build to a point where people think it's more likely than not that they cheated, then all of a sudden they're branded as a cheater, and their reputation can go down.
Hmm. Who is maybe the biggest cheater that you have helped expose over the years?
Yeah, for sure. It's Snorlax. Snorlax was a very accomplished GeoGuessr player in that he won the beta season of
Wow.
competitive. And it was well known that he did that. And he had a city streaks record when they had that game mode of, basically 24 hours. He was sitting on top of the leaderboard just for
Wow.
clout. Everybody was trying the new mode and they saw Snorlax up there. He got like a thousand cities in a row correct.
Hmm.
And so he was a big name, and he did it for clout, and everybody kind of suspected that something wasn't right. And I started talking to people in the community, and everybody had a little piece of evidence. Oh, yeah,
Mm.
I saw him do this. Oh, I saw this. I saw that. I'm like, why has nobody put all this together in a package and presented it? And so I decided to do that. I collected evidence in Save the Snails Discord, and started to, you know, use the insights that everybody had, the video recordings, the game links, the instances in the videos that where he seems to Google, his own channel. The Zigzag had an interview with him,
Mhm.
and it was great to see a pretty obvious Google on a Pennsylvania round.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
and so collecting all that evidence uh, was, just a fun hobby project. And really the big break came when this talented French player, Vic the Turtle, uh, looked at his country streaks and saw that he was using a specific cheating script that guessed a round number of yards away from the exact location so as not to
Uh,
look too suspicious. And so his solo play was cheated, like
Gosh.
25Ks on solo play countries. And once we saw that, we knew we had him. And so published the document, got signatures, got people to sign on to it and say, yes, I agree with this. And put their profile links in the document so that you could see that the community was getting behind it. We wanted this guy out. He was supposedly the best player, but it was a complete fiction. And
Wow.
so yeah, a few days after that dropped, GeoGuessr decided to ban him from competitive.
Wow. That's must have been kind of cool to unmask that. And like there needs to be people in the GeoGuessr world like you who are doing things like
Some would
that.
take issue with that, but yes,
Yeah.
I
Well,
think
and
so.
then
I
that
think
brings
so.
me to the point of, you said you've been a bit of a polarizing figure. You've made some enemies. Have you had any interaction with any of the cheaters that you've exposed?
Not so much the cheaters, it's more the people organizing the tournaments who don't like me causing drama, causing
Mm,
mischief, bringing things up about some, potential overstepping of players. So it's really been coming the pushback has been coming from that end. And look, I get it. You're organizing a fun tournament. You hope that nobody cheats. Most of these people don't want any cheaters in their tournament. But at the same time, you have a responsibility to make sure that there is fair play in a tournament that you're organizing and take steps in order to see that through.
yeah. Yeah. Well, one of the biggest cheaters that has been exposed recently, at least as far as I know, was Stique. There doesn't seem to be a lot of information on what happened there. And I know we were talking about it a little off camera. There's a native hammerhead video about it on YouTube. It doesn't really tell what happened. Do you have any insight onto what happened? I mean, you were saying, and this is what I gathered too, he was an exceptional player
Yeah,
who also
undoubtedly,
cheated.
he's one of the best players in the world and, was at that time. But, it sounds like GeoGuessr itself got some evidence and presented it to Plunkett and a few other community members to say that, Steak was actually cheating in competitive
Hmm.
and he was banned. So
Yeah.
that was not something I was super involved with, but I
Yeah.
was watching it as it
Uh-huh.
happened. And you talk to everybody, and everybody knows that Steak was a good player. He just, he cheated and he got that extra edge, and that's the most dangerous kind of cheater that there is.
Yeah. Do you have any suspicions of if he was Googling, if he was scripting,
I
anything at
don't,
all?
I don't, I don't know which of those, but probably one of the two.
Yeah.
Triangulation. He already did that way
Yeah.
back as a
Yeah.
prank.
Yeah.
And then uh, the I doubt it, but the image recognition.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd love to hear more about AI populated world. What is the I don't know, premise behind that, or what is the goal with that map?
Yeah. So it was really a way to create an objective metric to allocate locations among different countries. And there had just been this new map generator tool that was released. So you didn't have to go in and handpick every location, which takes a lot of time. I made a populated United States, 10,000 locations to do a good job handpicking them took a few months. I kind of set my goal of 150 locations a day trying to get in there. And it was a grind.
Yeah, that's a
It
lot.
takes a couple hours to pick 150 locations that are good and, conform to a distribution that makes sense that I wanted to use. And so when the new tool came out, I thought, well, this is a great way to create an objectively based map that says, what is the population of each country? What is the percentage coverage in each country? How many people live near where the Google car drove its
Okay.
street view? And say, okay, well, out of the percentage of the whole world that's covered, how should we allocate locations if we care about those two things, population and coverage?
Hmm.
And so that's the map that I created, AI Populated World. And it is very rural because the generator script doesn't know where in the country people live.
Mm.
So somewhere like Singapore, probably pretty appropriately represented. But a country like Brazil, most of the locations are rural because most of the land area is out in the country where nobody lives. So
Mm.
it's a rural map, but it's got populated in the title, so it
Yeah.
throws people for a loop sometimes. But I keep it updated. I still like playing it, and it's a good alternative if you're looking for more locations in bigger countries.
Hmm. And this was kind of your response to what we talked about earlier with some of the distribution problems that you saw.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, if you care about countryness, fine. But I would like to make that a factor to like actually calculate how many locations should be in each country if we care about countryness. So you add an equal weight factor, but then it shouldn't be only equal weight. It should add a population factor or a land area factor or a coverage factor. And
Hmm.
so to sort of use some of these objective metrics in order to decide things. I mean, we're a bunch of nerds. We can figure this out. It's a
Hmm.
solvable problem. And, having a random round number doesn't seem like the right approach. So
Yeah.
for a community USA, we decided to blend it. We had stateness as a factor.
Okay.
So we had 25% of the weight went to an equal number of locations in every state. But then we added population and area, and we actually have good data from the Department of Transportation on road length in every
Oh,
state.
wow.
And so we added that as a factor as well. So what we came up with was a pretty good blend. And so we figured out how many to put in each state, and then we drilled down and um, figured out how many to put in each county and
Wow.
assigned people in the USA Discord a group of counties to put together that constituted a region, which
Okay.
was usually a few regions per state. And so we had a lot of different contributors. I think over 60 map makers contributed to it and came up with what we think is a pretty good map. It might be a little too easy in that we set parameters on 5K ability for no
Hmm.
moving and no moving in NMPZ, and those are probably set a little too high. So you can get a lot of no moving 25Ks because of street signs and locations that were designed to be 5Kable.
Hmm.
So if when we do the remake, and that's part of the plan, we're going to dilute those locations a little bit.
Okay. And what was your role in creating the map? Did you have a certain set of counties or?
Yeah. So I was a regional organizer for the Northeast and the Mid Atlantic. So all the people who contributed to those regions, I would review all the locations.
Cool.
Also, pick locations around Denver and New Orleans and, places I've been, places I like. Um, and also, I helped create the distribution for that as well and the
Nice.
Excel document that accompanies it.
Nice. What's your best state streak on a Community USA?
I don't do streaks.
No.
Yeah, I don't care about stateness. I don't care about countryness. So
Hmm.
that's just something that's an element of the game that I never really got into.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are your favorite modes to play, favorite maps to play?
Yeah. So I play a lot of no moving and NMPZ on Chatguessr and
Hmm.
on my Twitch stream. So when I'm doing that, I like to usually play world maps. Some of my favorite map in GeoGuessr, full stop, is a stochastic populated world. It's
Okay.
talented programmer Mira Matt or Enigma on Twitch
Mm-hmm.
created this map where it actually knows where people live and it allocates locations accordingly within
Cool.
countries. So you see a lot of urban rounds, but you also see some rural rounds because people do live out in the countryside. And it's a great map. It's super fun, and it's really like a lottery. Like if you're a person who lives near where the Google car went past, you have an equal chance of anybody else in the world of seeing your hometown or your street on this map, as opposed to most other maps, which
Mm-hmm.
you know, concentrate in on rural stretches of long roads.
Yeah.
So that's my favorite map. Play a lot of AI populated world as well. I don't know any of the repeats. I don't know any of the locations. I regenerate it frequently, so it's not
Okay.
like I have an advantage, even though it's my map. And then Geotime is another really cool map created by a diverse world Steve, and it's got a very simple premise. Every location is at least 10 kilometers apart from every other location on the map.
Okay.
That's the distribution. He just lets the map generator run on every country until it stops finding new locations.
Okay.
So he doesn't come up with a top down distribution. It's kind of a bottom up distribution. And it's really the closest thing to an even coat of paint over the whole earth. So Geotime is a great map, and I encourage people to check it out.
Nice. What would you say your strengths are? The things, the kind of meta that you're most drawn to?
Yeah, it's probably kind of cringy stuff like license plates in the US,
Oh,
and
I think that's sweet.
yeah, I mean, probably better at the US than any other country. Traveled pretty extensively here, seen a lot of places. So the US, but also like Brazil, Indonesia, getting really into India.
Cool.
And it's not really through dedicated study. It's more just repetition and gameplay.
Hmm.
I don't spend a lot of time on the documents, but for the Team World Cup in Paris, I was responsible for Japan, so I had to know the pole plates, the
Yeah.
utility plates. So learned those, and I love Japan. I've been 5 times. Can't wait to
Cool.
go back. Trying to see a game in every Japanese professional baseball park.
Oh,
So
cool.
you, my philosophy on travel is set a random arbitrary goal that gets you out places,
I like
and
that.
then you're going to travel more and you're going to be happier. So
Uh-huh.
that's my random arbitrary goal. Been to 5 of the 12 so far, but all 30 the US Major League Baseball parks
Uh-huh.
and Toronto.
Um, do you speak any Japanese or
No,
any other? No?
no, no. Language, not really my thing. I took French in high school, never use it, but
Yeah.
recognizing language, I think is cool, and the different scripts in India and some of the European languages. I think I'm pretty good at it.
Yeah. And you've done quite a bit of IRL travel?
Yeah, yeah. I've been to, depending on how you count, about 50 countries.
Wow.
So most of the countries in Europe, um, a lot of Latin America, South America. Went to Ethiopia, so some Africa in there, and
Cool.
then just came back from Thailand, Vietnam, and Qatar.
Oh, nice. Wow. What were some of the highlights of that?
Yeah, so I went to visit Rainbolt, who's living in Bangkok, and we went to a night market, saw
Yeah.
them selling bugs and insects and scorpions, and I said, you know what, I'm down. I'm down to try this, and so went live on my Twitch stream and ate some bugs and a scorpion live there. So
Nice.
travel, food, getting to know people and places, that's the appeal for me.
Yeah. Do you have another destination coming up soon?
Well, planning to go to see all the GeoGuessr peeps in Stockholm in September. So probably going to plan a little European trip around that.
Hmm.
Ireland is one of the countries I haven't been to, even though I have ancestry that hails from there. So be cool to check that out. And then next on my list is probably South Korea. Haven't been to South Korea, so I think that'd be cool.
Cool. What are some other hobbies you have outside of GeoGuessr, outside of travel?
Yeah, I'm a little bit of a sports fan, so fantasy sports, politics, love politics, forecasting elections, anything to do with um, spreadsheets.
Hmm.
Spreadsheets is kind of a weird hobby to list, but it's something that I think is a good way to organize your life and any topic that's interesting.
Yeah. Of the traditional American sports, which one are you most into?
Probably baseball, football, and hockey.
Okay.
Not so much basketball, but
Are you a
yeah.
Rangers fan or who's your hockey team?
Now, Colorado Avalanche. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
The first year they moved to Colorado, they won the Stanley Cup, and they've had me hooked ever since.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm actually a big hockey fan too. I spent the first 6 years of my life in Colorado Springs, where I think there's a decent hockey presence.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
don't really remember. And then second 6 years of my life in Minnesota, huge hockey presence.
for sure.
So it got kind of ingrained to me, and I've been a Canucks fan basically ever since I moved to Washington because that was the closest team, and I still
Cool.
haven't caught on to the Kraken.
Oh, no.
I mean, the Canucks are doing amazing this season, so it's like
Okay.
I'm
Cool.
gonna be following them. Um, okay, and then also Chatguessr, which I am so woefully ignorant to. But
No, it's all right. It's
could you explain the merits
it's a
of
way to
Chatguessr?
play GeoGuessr collaboratively on Twitch.
Hmm.
And part of the reason that I like it so much is that it really limits cheating and it because it deprives the other person that you're playing against of the access to the browser. So they
And how
can
does
still
that work?
Google.
Sorry, like how do they not have access to the browser? They're playing through your.
Yeah, so they're looking at the location on my Twitch stream or on
Ah,
anybody's
okay.
Twitch stream who's seeing it. So they're just seeing the picture.
Okay.
They can't manipulate it. They can't
Okay.
guess or anything
Cool.
um, with the browser. And so everybody sees the same location, everybody has the same information, and you plonk and you see who gets closest. Play
Yeah.
5 rounds, see who wins the game, record it, move on to the next one.
Hmm.
And the cool thing about GeoGuessr and on Twitch and Chatguessr in particular is that you can go toe to toe with the best players of the world. You can be playing a Chatguessr game against Blinky or Bag or
Yeah.
Legenza or some of these amazing players and see they saw everything that I saw. Where did they go? Where did I go? What did they see that I didn't?
Hmm.
And the people are so friendly that they'll tell you why they went where they
Yeah.
went. And me as a streamer, I try to bring that out for some of the newer players to, try to get everybody clued up and learning about the world. And so even if it's cringe meta, but a lot of the times it's landscapes and mountains and
Hmm.
more purist things to learn. So
Yeah.
as opposed to any other sport or game, you can't really do that. You can't play chess against Magnus Carlsen. You
Yeah.
can't step onto a tennis court with Roger Federer. Like it's crazy how accessible and friendly, the top players are in the world.
Hmm. Yeah. It's crazy how, yeah, they're accessible, they're friendly, and it's crazy how damn good they are.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Who are some of the people that impress you right now, specifically with I don't know, either World Cup stuff or stuff that players that people don't really know about?
Yeah,
Anyone come to
players
mind?
that are under the radar are kind of under 18 at the moment and not
Mm,
eligible for the World Cup. So Bad at GeoGuessr, he's a
okay.
really good player, also called Bag for short.
That's an English he's an English guy or
Yeah, he's
okay.
from Scotland, I think.
Okay.
Um, Man of Bananas is the best US player out there. He's
Oh
still
wow.
a few years away from being eligible for the World Cup, and he's makes crazy guesses.
Uh-huh.
Um, Legenzo is another one. You have a lot of and Gingy. A lot of people were surprised by Gingy and how well he did at the Americas regionals. but not us in the Twitch community who were watching the Murph Spree stream or anybody else, because he would go on and he would make crazy, insane guesses. And we knew he wasn't cheating because he was playing through Chatguessr. So he didn't have control of the browser. So
Yeah.
yeah, the Chatguessr community was fully behind Gingy.
Yeah. I remember when Rainbolt was playing with a bunch of people kind of standing behind him in that video for the World Cup. I don't know if you saw that.
Yep,
He's
yep.
basically just every time he's just like, Gingy, what do you think? Gingy,
Yeah,
what do you
that
think?
that was the Gingy face reveal. Yeah, that was exciting.
Yeah. I remember him being like, oh, it's Sandy, like it's Eastern Lithuanian. I'm just like, what?
Yeah,
Pretty insane. Um, Sweet. Well, let's see. Oh, I did want to talk. I feel like we kind of, and I can edit this, but I feel like we kind of there was some stuff with cheating that I wanted to ask if you don't mind talking about that a little more. Basically, just one question I have with cheating
sure.
is how can GeoGuessr move forward with cheating? How can they continue to combat it? Um, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not something that I envy their position in. It's a
Hmm.
really hard and thorny problem. It's a browser-based game. It's kind of always going to be a browser-based game. I think some of the limitations of how it interacts with the Google Maps API kind of limit what they can do. For the qualifiers, a few times back, they did have a intermediate program that you had to develop, that you had to download in order to prove that you weren't scripting. Um, so some workarounds like that might be interesting, but more importantly, just creating a culture of fair play. I think a
Yeah.
lot of the reminders about Googling and some of the recent bans that they've had have put people in check a little bit, but it's still on us as a community to try to combat it. And the land tournaments, that's the great thing. Nobody's suspicious of anybody because you go up to this computer and that's all you have. You're not
Hmm.
Googling, you're not scripting, you're not using AI image recognition. It's just you. And
Yeah.
so more land tournaments, more in-person tournaments
Yeah.
would be great.
I guess, I mean, where there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah.
GeoGuessr can figure it out, and luckily, you know, the community, and thanks to people like you, the community can figure it out too. So
Yep.
it doesn't seem like something that will be completely debilitating for the game.
No, it's a tough problem, but at the end of the day, there are enough people who believe in fair play that I think it'll continue forward.
Nice. Sweet. Well, thank you so much for talking to me.
Yeah, no problem.
Um, let's see. Yeah, I wish you best of luck with the move, with the
Thanks.
drive.
Thanks.
That's a
Yep.
beast of a drive. Hopefully it doesn't snow too much.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, if it's okay with you, I'll link to I don't know, Twitch, maybe your Twitch and things like that in the show notes.
Sure. Sure.
Awesome. And I definitely am stoked to try to play AI populated world. And also it's a stochastic world. What was the map?
Stochastic populated world. Yeah. It's a
Okay.
fancy math term, but
Okay.
yeah, my favorite map in the game.
Sweet.
You see more urban locations. It's a automatic way of generating urban locations,
Hmm.
and it's based on objective metrics. So
Cool. Okay. Well, yeah. Thanks you so much, Toro, for coming on the show.
no problem.
And
Looking forward to the future podcasts, and I'll be listening or
cool. All
watching.
right. Well, take care and talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks
All
again,
right.
Mark.
See you
Take
later.
care.
All right, that concludes the conversation with Toro. Thank you guys so much for listening. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much, Toro, for coming on the show. I don't currently have any more guests lined up. So if you'd like to come on the show, please send me a message on GeoGuessr or Discord or leave a comment on YouTube. I don't really like reaching out to people because I kind of feel like I'm bothering them, but maybe I just need to get better at that because it's great having guests on the show. Anyway, thank you guys again so much for listening and have a wonderful rest of your day.